So if you've been on the search for the right solution on social media and you've struggled spending money on ads that go nowhere, audiences that never really engage or convert, you don't book the appointments and you feel like you're wasting your time, I want to introduce you to today's guest who has the process on a platform where you already are familiar. In fact, you already probably spend time there. It just needs to follow a process to generate those contacts and those conversions. Let me bring in now Rhonda Sher. So Rhonda, tell me a little bit about what you do.
So Dawn, since 2009, I've been working with entrepreneurs and business owners. And what I really do is two things. Number one, I show them on LinkedIn. I like to say how to go from hiding out to standing out. So I optimize and upgrade their LinkedIn profiles, or I showed them how to do it. Because what I have found is that many people are on LinkedIn and they look like they're looking for a job. They're what I call in the LinkedIn Witness Protection Program. So that's the first part of what I do. But once you have an awesome LinkedIn profile, what I call runway ready, the second part of what I do is I provide a myriad of strategies for people to be able to generate more appointments, to talk to more people, to close more deals and get more referrals. And I do that through posting, through Sales Navigator, through reconnecting with your prior connections, through basically commenting on other people's posts and driving traffic to your profile, from using a bunch of different strategies and choosing the one that works for you to get you to your goal, because not everybody wants to have a full calendar. Maybe they only need 3 clients a year, but they need the right 3 clients a year. And then one of the other things that I do, which is a little bit different, is I show people how to use simple AI tools to save them 3 to 4 hours a day, and how to use the power of networking groups and tie that into LinkedIn, because everything comes down to relationships. It's really not about selling. You know, you can go anywhere and somebody's going to sell you. The old days, we went into networking groups and people just shoved business cards at you. But with LinkedIn, it's about being authentic. It's about really creating relationships, and at a minimum, have 2 to 3 calls every single day with somebody you either already know and are reconnecting with, or somebody you don't know at all, and keeping track, putting them into a system so that those are going to lead to real business, whether it's business for you or it's business that you're going to connect to somebody else.
Well, and Rhonda, there's a lot of people trying different platforms, right? They're trying to build audiences on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, TikTok. Why LinkedIn? Even though people have a profile, what are they missing by not being active on that platform?
Well, the main thing that they're missing, and again, LinkedIn isn't always for everybody, okay? If you're a hairdresser, you probably don't need to be on LinkedIn. Or maybe you're a local dentist, might not need to be on LinkedIn. However, the people that need to be there are the ones that are going to get checked out. So if you have 500 or more connections, because that's what LinkedIn says makes you an all-star, go out, Dawn, and Google yourself. There's a 75 to 80% chance that your LinkedIn profile is going to show up on the first page of Google. And studies have shown that people are 2 times more likely to believe what they find on LinkedIn than any other platform. You can go to Facebook. If you went to my Facebook, you would find all kinds of cool stuff about how my husband and I went on a fun date. But that's not going to tell you about me. It isn't going to tell you where I went to school. It isn't going to tell you about my accomplishments. It's not going to tell you about my upcoming events. My posts are going to be very personal. They're not going to be about related to business in any way. So, and Instagram, I'm not saying that those platforms aren't great. They are terrific. And YouTube is probably one of the best ones that goes with LinkedIn. But if you're a professional, if you're an insurance person, if you're a real estate person, if you are an attorney, if you own a digital marketing agency, maybe you're somebody like you, Dawn, that's an expert at working with entrepreneurs who want a better presence on a platform like OBS. This is where you want to be, because you can show your work. You can put it in the featured section. You can have recommendations, and people can literally click over to those profiles. So if you want to have a presence that people will be able to see and say, wow, now here's the truth, Dawn, you can see anything you want. right? We can all lie, but most people are going to be more likely to actually tell the truth. And one of the features on LinkedIn that I really like that a lot of people don't take advantage of is you can verify your profile. All that is going through a LinkedIn system. They use an encryption, but it basically kind of says, look, you're on rented space. You don't own LinkedIn, but you've actually proven you're a real person. Here's my passport. Here's my driver's license, right? So you've taken the credibility to another level. And if you've ever looked at, when like on these reality TV shows and things like that, when they get the contestants, where do you think they get their information from? They go to LinkedIn. It's pretty funny, but they do. So I would say if you are a professional or a job hunter, and you want to make sure that you have a platform where people can see, oh, this is where you went to school. This is what other people say about you. This is a bunch of, interviews that you've been on. You can even take an interview like this and put it in the featured section so people can see you're real. You can't fake this. I mean, maybe you could with AI, but you can tell, right? So LinkedIn is the platform for credibility, visibility, and even profitability.
I love that. And what if someone has a profile on LinkedIn, but they really haven't been active or updated it much? I mean, are they better off starting over, or should they go back and start to work what they already have?
No, I wouldn't start over. And the reason I wouldn't start over is they've already got connections. So you don't want to rebuild those connections. And it's hard to merge accounts. So what I would do is I would either do one of two things: hire somebody like me or an expert, or take a course and go out and really upgrade it. And here's a little tip that most people don't know. You can go out and look at the profiles of your competitors, because I mean, everybody, there's so many people, there's a billion people on LinkedIn, right? But what if you did it incognito? So they don't know that you looked at your profile. That will give you an idea of what others in your field are doing and what you need to do to differentiate yourself. So I would definitely say don't start from scratch. And if you do have more than one profile, either merge it or delete it, because LinkedIn only allows you to have one.
Gotcha. No, these appointments you're generating, I mean, they kind of already have an idea of what you do, right? This is much different than cold traffic, isn't it?
100%, because they've either found you because you came up in their feed, or they found you because they're following some of your posts, or maybe it's a recommendation. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was actually getting an x-ray in my doctor's office, and I started a conversation with the guy that was x-raying my knee. And he said, oh, what do you do? And I told him, and I said, well, how long have you been here? And he goes, 8 years. And I come to find out that he's a single dad with a 6-year-old. And I said, curious, I said, you're probably not going to have Social Security when you get older. He goes, yeah, I'm really kind of worried about that. I said, did you know that there's a kind of life insurance that could actually substitute for for your Social Security? He's like, what are you talking about? I have life insurance through my company. I said, no, I have a client that actually does this, that he can show you a way to put your child through college and actually be your own bank. And he's like, can I have that information? So what do you think the first thing this guy is going to do? He's going to go look at this gentleman's LinkedIn profile, right? And that's how he's going to find out about him. And what is on that profile are case studies of people just like him that are using the life insurance that way. Makes sense, right?
Oh, absolutely. Now, but that's because it's also built that way. So tell me a little bit about what it's like to work with you. What's the process to get those things lined up so a profile can do that heavy lifting?
So what I do is basically I partner with you. One of the words that I really dislike, Dawn, is help. Okay. A nurse helps you, but when you're working with a professional like yourself, okay, yeah, sure, you help us with OBS, but you don't really help us, Dawn. You empower us. You give us all kinds of tools. So when clients work with me, we partner. They give me all the information. We have in-depth interviews. So I really get to know who they are, what they do, who they're looking for, and even what's your financial goal? Because if you don't know where you're going, you don't know how you're going to end up there. So part of the partnering with me is really a repositioning. Some will call it branding, although I don't consider myself a branding professional. I do that. I've been doing it since 2009. So the first step is I have 3 steps. It's position, prospect, profit. So the first step is let's get your profile in order. The second step is prospecting. That can be done in a number of different ways. So clients will engage with me for either a certain number of hours. They'll say, okay, you know what? I'm pretty good at this. I've got, a social marketing media person, whatever. So they'll engage with me for a certain number of hours. That's great. Then they're off and running. But the typical way that clients engage with me is a year-long engagement. So the first part is the profile. The second part is we do the in-depth coaching. And it's very specific. What's your goal? Let's get you there. If you're in a networking group and you're not getting results, I'll show you how to do that. If you are on LinkedIn and you've got 2,000 connections and you have never spoken to them, let's reconnect. So I use a variety of tools. And then the third part of it is, and also recommendations. But the last part is I give them unlimited access to me on my calendar for a year, where they can book a 30-minute call, send me a quick text. And at the end of that year, they're going to see more zeros potentially in their business than they've seen ever in their business, because prior to that, they really weren't using it and they didn't have a guide. And I know for me, I'm not somebody that does well with self-help. That's why I hired you. I could set up OBS using your do-it-yourself system, but you know what? It was never going to get done, because that's how I operate. So I provide courses for those people that have more time than money, that want to be able to do it on their own. But the majority of my clients are people that realize that if they don't do anything, they're going to end up exactly where they were 90 days, 60 days, 120 days, whatever it is. So I give them a variety of different ways to work with me with whatever fits with their time and their budget. And what I tell them is it's a 2-person rowboat. You've got to do your part, and I promise I will do mine. And I've got almost 225 written recommendations from people that I've worked with, and I don't work very hard at getting those. I probably should have like 500. But the reality of it is that people get results.
And what got you into this? How'd you get started doing LinkedIn profiles and posting and setting appointments?
So I was always a networker. Just always a networker. Back in 2005, I actually wrote a book called The 2-Minute Networker. My mother used to say I never met a stranger, right? It was always just somebody to meet. And so I wrote a book called The 2-Minute Networker. And then when LinkedIn came out, because my background was I was a paralegal. So as a paralegal, I knew how to research. And there was no female face to LinkedIn back in 2007. Mari Smith, if you know who she is in Facebook, she was the female face of Facebook, but there was really nobody in LinkedIn. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. Now I can network online without having to put on the pantyhose, the heels, the whole thing, get out, and I could reach people. So I learned it myself. And I started going out and I started speaking, and I wrote a book. I self-published it. I called it The ABCs of LinkedIn, Get LinkedIn or Get Left Out. $99. That's what I charged for that book, believe it or not. And everywhere I went, I sold out. And then I just kept learning. I hired other mentors who knew a lot more than I did, so I could teach my clients. And it just has evolved. And when the pandemic hit, nobody really knew how to use Zoom. Nobody knew how to use LinkedIn, and nobody could go door to door anymore because there were no doors that were open. We were all shut down. People got used to working from home, and there was no way to do that. So LinkedIn was perfect. And for me, I was able to take all those years of knowledge, and whether you were a millennial or a Gen Zer or somebody like myself, a baby boomer, I could make it really simple for you to be able to do this on Zoom and get rid of that horrible, thing that people have, which is leaky pipeline. They're great at helping their clients, but they can't find the clients. So my, sort of inner resource talent was showing me how to find the people, but first develop relationships. Nobody wants to be sold. And that's the whole thing that I have found. So I think what makes me a little bit different about how I do it is I'm very relationship based, because I came from a networking space. I love hearing people's stories because you can always take that to the next level. I just had a client I was working with who told me that in their prior life, just like the question you asked me, they were a professional baseball player. And I said, wow, the skills that you use as a professional baseball player really take you far in what you're doing today. You're always anticipating. Have you ever seen a baseball player, Dawn, that hasn't rehearsed in their head 1,000 times what they're doing? Well, that's the way they work. And they're going to do the very same thing. In fact, I don't know, did you see the Golden Globes the other day on
No,
TV?
no, I was watching a football game. Yeah.
So Nikki Glazer, who's a comedian, and not everybody's taste. Okay, she's a little raw. I think she's funny. I watched the Golden Globes, and she was probably one of the best MCs I've ever seen. And what was really interesting is a woman named Sam Horn, who's a consultant that I have been following for a long time, and she wrote an article about how Nikki Glazer hit it out of the park as an MC, which is a tough job, especially as unpaid. And what I learned is she rehearsed that 93 times. No wonder it came off so seamlessly, because she was taking her experience as a stand-up comedian and putting it into a different realm as an MC of an award ceremony. Well, everything that we've done, I was a paralegal. I learned certain skills on how to use the computer. Now I use them on LinkedIn. It's as natural to me as breathing. So kind of a long answer to a short question, but for me, it's really just knowing how to use the platform and be able to teach somebody else how to do it in a way that they don't feel like they're drowning. They can do it step by step.
And Rhonda, let me change gears just for one moment. What's something that very few people know about you?
Oh, there's so many fun things. I mean, most people know that I married the same guy twice. I'm pretty open about that story. I think one of the things that people don't know about me is that Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is an organization that I am just a super supporter of. And the reason is my daughter at age 10 was diagnosed with Crohn's and colitis. And it's kind of a silent disease. And in her late 20s, early 30s, she went to work for Crohn's and colitis. And so she started raising awareness. And I don't think that most people know that, they see me, I'm always in bright colors, I'm fun, I'm all of this, but there's a real serious side to me that is so passionate about, providing resources to people that have IBS and to be able to give them those resources. So I spend time, money, everything that I possibly can to bring awareness, because that's something that has hit really close to home. I mean, when you have a kid at age 10 that gets diagnosed, and now she's doing something, I want to jump on that bandwagon. And I don't think a lot of people know that about me.
Oh, that's very cool. Now, bringing it back to if someone's watching at this point in the interview here, how would they get in touch with you? What's their first step?
I really like to make it easy. Remember, we both studied with the same mentor, right? Joel Bauer. And Joel Bauer told us about Mary Kay, right? Is it easy? Can I do it? Does it work? Mm-hmm. So on my LinkedIn profile, which you can easily find, just go Google Rhonda Sher, you'll find me, okay? There's a little button there and it says, let's get to know each other. Click that button. Okay, you'll get on my calendar, or you can go to my website, theshermethod.com, and find a variety of different things that are on there. I make myself accessible, right? I mean, that's part of who I am and what my personality is, because I don't necessarily have to have you as a client. I might say to you, oh my gosh, have you ever thought about having an interview like this? Let me introduce you to Dawn Fakula. And it's so easy because now I'm just sharing one of my resources. And what do people do when you do that? They go, oh, Rhonda, do you know about X, Y, and Z? And that's how I get to. And I'm very specific too, because one of the things that I tell my clients is know what your ask is. So my ask is always, do you know of a group? Do you know of anybody that wants to learn to leverage their LinkedIn game in an interactive session, not somebody that's just going to sit and talk to you with PowerPoint, where you're going to get a chance to actually jump in, ask your questions, and walk away learning something that you can immediately implement. I love an introduction. So part of what, when you reach out to me, is I'm going to ask you, and people are always surprised. I would say, Dawn, here's my magic wand. If I could wave it, what could I do for you? And you'll tell me. And then what do people naturally do? You have kids, right? Your kids have been invited to birthday parties. even if they didn't like that kid, what do they do? They invite them to their party. It's just reciprocal. So it's kind of the same thing. So that's pretty much, I think, what makes me different is I always start with giving first, kind of like the Bob Berg go giver, right? What can I do for you? And it always comes back.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's very few people out there, very few companies you're going to find who actually use and do what it is that they teach. So many times it's out of alignment. They're teaching strategy, they're teaching theory. Rhonda actually uses the process that she gives to you. And that's one of the most powerful things you can find. That, listen, her call to action, her how do you get in touch with me is to go onto LinkedIn. It's not some fancy page or some form. It's exactly what she teaches you to do in an environment where your ideal clients are already spending time. They're already there on the platform. They're already on their phone. They're already on their computer. They're already networking. And she shows you how to stand out. She shows you how to get the right attention, make the right connections, have the conversations to convert for your business. And like she said, take it to a level that it hasn't been before, and you know that it deserves to be. Go to LinkedIn, find Rhonda Sher, Google her. I love that little tip about Google. You Google someone, LinkedIn comes up near the top, and to verify that, you need this in your back pocket. And see, the thing is, you've known it because you have the account. You just didn't know what to do with it next. You know how to make it stand out. You know how to make it work for you. And you didn't know how to generate those appointments that'll lead to those conversions. So, Rhonda, thank you very much for being here today. Anything you want to leave the audience with?
One correction. It's not sure, it's sure, because
Sure.
it is the surefire way to actually put your LinkedIn on steroids and never have an empty calendar again. Because
Beautiful.
what I like to say is if you're not LinkedIn, you're left out.
Awesome. Well, Rhonda, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Take care.